West went to the break with a 6-0 lead and ran out just as confident in the second half. 5 minutes in and Maitland decided to let West know they weren't going to have it all their own way, pushing the ball out wide before Greg Eager showed some fancy stepping to dive over and score. Gary Fairhurst and Rod Blackmore continued their attack for the Pumpkin Pickers in defence. However, at times Maitland seemed to lack direction and West quickly capitalised, making deep inroads into their opposition's territory. With 20 minutes to go, West opened Maitland right up, running in 4 tries, with Captain Mal Graham and Peter Jenner combining to turn on one of the best tries of the match. Jenner claimed 2 tries for the match, continuing the great form that earned him 14 tries in the competition proper. West now meet Souths in the grand final at the International Sports Centre next Sunday. Fitness Week is designed to stimulate average Australians to become more involved in sensible, moderate exercise.
Particularly with our younger population in the primary schools. Being an ex-physical education teacher, even I've noticed that in our school curriculums there seems to be less impact on the fitness aspect of our young people, and I think it's an area that the department and the government itself are going to have to concentrate on in the future. Start with the young people and move it right through their whole life.
Throughout the week, the department will be offering free aerobics lessons, gym instruction and education lessons in a diversity of sports from croquet to cricket. However, stress and high cholesterol levels are becoming some of the biggest killers in the community. In shopping centres across the region, free tests will be given by local medical staff. Jim Barry from the Department of Sport, Recreation and Racing says in today's tests alone, a number of people shown to have high cholesterol levels were unaware they were in any sort of danger.
We've had certain tests have shown rather a risk factor as far as heart exercise and so forth. Also high cholesterol testing has been shown out in the community, particularly in our society, that seems to not look at the healthy aspects of nutrition and so forth, and we're rather concerned that both the stress factor and the high cholesterol are causing quite an amount of concern to our department as far as healthy lifestyles.
The NBN Cameron Handicap to be run on the 12th has prize money of $100,000 and 70 nominations have been received, an increase of 25 on last year. The calibre of horse that has been nominated is an indication of the status of the Cameron.
We've got Merimbula Bay that won the Doncaster last year. We've got Rabonian Steel that won the Stradbroke, and the runner-up in that Don't Play. We've got horses of the calibre of Groucho, one of Doc Chapman's horses that's in scintillating form. Planet Ruler from Queensland that won the Elders Mile in Caulfield.
And of course you've got last year's winner, Windsor's Pal.
Yes, we have. Rang right on the deadline and he'll be there, and it was a great win last year, and they said they'd come back, and sure enough they have.
The Newcastle Gold Cup will be run on the 13th, and it's not hard to figure out that the $200,000 prize money has brought out some of the best stayers in Australia. 80 nominations have been received, an increase of 28.
The local horse, Coppertonic, trained by Paul Perry, won the Dalgety last year over the Melbourne Cup Carnival. And we've got Hidden Rhythm that won the Galaxy in Queensland and the Queensland Derby. Riverina Charm won the Rosehill Guineas. The Brotherhood won our cup 2 years ago, and it's a nomination too this year, so there's real depth there. The Sydney trainers have supported us very well with about 47 odd noms, and the local trainers with about a dozen or more, so we're very thrilled.
Friday the 8th of September is the day for final acceptances, and the Newcastle Spring Carnival's 2 major races are guaranteed top quality fields.
Those interested parties were narrowed down to 3 which submitted detailed proposals. They were Gary Ashford of the Bistro, Lloyd Moffat of the Oyster Barn and the successful bidder Neil Slater, who we were unable to contact late today for comment. The proposal by the Port Authority calls for the integrity of the foreshore development to be maintained, with the site not substantially redeveloped. Neil Slater and his associates' plan includes a restaurant and coffee shop and a takeaway food area utilising both indoor and outdoor parts. A local panel of experts has assessed the project in cooperation with the Council's Planning Department. The operator of the seaplane service from Newcastle Harbour to Rose Bay, Aquatic Air, will also be accommodated in the layout of the new development to be known as Scratchleys. An official agreement between Neil Slater and the Port's Authority could be finalised as early as tomorrow, with the authority saying more details will be released then.
Phil pins his success on his job as a postie. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week he spends delivering mail to letterboxes across the area. But come weekends and Phil swaps his red shirt and post bag for racing suit and a crash helmet. Phil won the world title defeating riders from Europe and the United States.
This one was the biggest buzz of all. It was in Australia, in Queensland, and all your fans were there, which was really great.
30-year-old Phil has been riding seriously for 6 years and says BMX riding is open to all ages from under 5s to over 40s and is definitely not a passing fad.
It's really strong. It's we've got about 10,000 registered riders in Australia. We had about 20-odd thousand spectators at the World Championships. So it's a very strong sport. It's just haven't got the coverage, the media coverage that it deserves.
The high-flying aerials and speed manoeuvres are not dangerous and merely take practice. Phil says since he's been riding he's suffered only one mishap. He clipped a fallen rider's bike and landed heavily, dislocating his shoulder. However, Phil has vowed to keep his world title and hopes with the right promotion Australian riders will soon be able to make a living from the pedal-powered sport.
The development of the Port of Newcastle to handle containerised cargo, particularly wool, is a major part of the Newcastle's progress plan. According to Chairman David Boyd, the council foresees a wool exporting village established on Kooragang Island.
The facilities have to be there to attract the ships to come to Newcastle. So we're really looking at something like a one-stop wool export village where wool is transported to one point that's near the port. We have wool storage, wool selling facilities, wool coring facilities, and it has to be adjacent to the port.
Mr Boyd says the state dockyard site could become the nucleus for further port development, but he said it's likely part of the site will be leased or sold to private enterprise.
But we would support the sale or lease of the dockyard to any enterprise that was going to create economic income for the hunter and jobs.
The Development Council also sees the existing rail link to the Central West as inadequate and says it will approach the state government to extend the line from Newcastle to Dubbo. This will see valuable rural produce make its way to the region.
Continuing the rail link to Dubbo to ensure that Newcastle has a first-class rail link right out into the central west of New South Wales. And this fits in very well with the strategy I was talking about, containerisation, the wool village, helping the rural sector of the state to use Newcastle as its major port.
Getting ready for the bright lights of Los Angeles and Hollywood, the girls lined up for final photo sessions before the flight out. The tour follows a visit to Newcastle last year from an LA side, and the Amateur Soccer Federation hopes the exchange will become an annual event. Skipper Michelle Cabin says it will be tough work.
We play 16 games, which is a full season, in 24 days, so it's going to be pretty hard.
That may be the case, but the women, who have been selected from the 9 teams playing in the Newcastle competition, certainly seem determined to have a good time along the way.
By lunchtime today, the 128 bowlers who took to the greens on Monday had been reduced to just 4. Cahaiba's Bob King and Joan Dorban from the Jockey Club carried the flag for Newcastle. Their competition, Jimmy Dwyer of Engadine and Dorothy Roach from Rose Hill Club. It was evident that all the bowlers were in fine form after a week of matches, pulling off almost impossible shots. Dwyer is well known as a devastating driver and used the shot to great effect today. This was the 13th annual Mixed Masters Pairs at Cahaiba, and already the next is being planned.
A lot of top-class bowlers have played here this week, and it's been a feast of very, very excellent bowls by both the ladies players and the men players.
State Premier Nick Greiner announced the medal winners over a suitably sumptuous dinner at the Hilton Hotel. Despite a strong points tally throughout the season, Sargent was clearly astonished and accepted the accolades with typical modesty.
Well, as a lot of people have been saying, I think the way the season panned out, there was a lot of wet weather football, but I think your forwards come to the fore in the wet weather football, and I think that might have helped us along the way a little bit.
Does it make up the disappointment of not getting in the State of Origin side as many people thought you might?
Well, yeah. Well, you don't do much better than this, and I certainly, it'd be great to play for the state, and obviously it's something I'd like to do, but I don't think I'll ever forget this night.
Sargent's familiar headgear and explosive talent in the forwards made him a constant hit with the fans during his first season with the Knights, and obviously with the referees, who gave him a huge points lead for much of the season. Miller just caught up with the former Newcastle junior and Canterbury Bankstown forward in the final rounds. On the night, the pair came up dead even with 23 points each to carve a special place in the history of the Rothmans medal.
Four of the new $180,000 craft were launched at the marina. The boats are built and designed in Foster and are sold to hire companies up and down the eastern seaboard. They are promoted as the ultimate in water cruising, offering teak panelling throughout, enough fresh water for 10 people for 10 days, freezers and large open sun decks. The boats are allowed to cruise anywhere along the lake's 182 kilometres of shoreline 11 months of the year. The only month not available is August due to the strong westerly winds that sweep across the lake. The craft are also becoming increasingly popular for sales conventions and business meetings. The exhibition has a range of photos submitted from across the state. Winner of the primary school section was 8-year-old Martin Adnell of Ellibana, who submitted 2 large photos depicting the evolution of the humble clothes peg and, with the use of 2 minor models, the changes in the telephone. Second place was local youngster Stephen Rugby from Charlestown, with his pictorial of 70 years of coal mining. Spokesperson for the organisers of the competition, the Institute of Engineers, Sally Chapman, says the photos were definitely not taken by adults.
They felt that the children had taken the photos. There are aspects of photography, apparently, that children tend to take the photo within the middle of the frame, so they felt that these photos were actually taken by the children.
In the open section, Susan Edwards of Cole Point took out first place, highlighting the Sydney monorail. Other entrants spent freezing nights on the Harbour Bridge just waiting for the right light, or a train to pass just at the right second. Others chose to silhouette Newcastle's steelworks, or the dusk beauty of Newcastle Harbour. The exhibition will remain on display at the Regional Museum until next Monday. Darren Curtis for NBN News.
The amalgamation of Newcastle University, the Hunter Institute of Higher Education and the Newcastle Conservatorium has been a thorny issue since it was first suggested in the early 80s. With the announcement of a 15-person interim council to set up the framework for the merger, it seems the confrontation is set to continue. Education Minister Metherell has named 2 academics, 2 politicians, 2 students plus 3 businessmen and 6 ex-council members to sit on the committee. All are men. Student and staff unions say they are shocked by what they call blatant sexism.
I think what the Minister's saying by not appointing women to the interim council is that there is no woman in the Newcastle community that's of such standing that could serve on council. I think that's absolutely ridiculous and an insult to the outstanding women in Newcastle.
Newcastle University Vice-Chancellor Professor Keith Morgan, who, with the heads of the Hunter Institute and the Conservatorium, advised Dr Metherell on the selection of the council, says it was entirely a government decision.
There has been some discussion that it's a very sexist panel. There are no women on the council.
Indeed, that's so, and there's no other comment that one can make about that.
Well, do you think there should be a woman on the council?
Well, we are about to elect a Chancellor, and there's every possibility that we shall be electing a woman as Chancellor of the university.
A spokesperson for the Minister said no women were even suggested by the university or the institute. Further criticism from the Newcastle University Staff Association, which suggests that the 3 businessmen selected on the board were given their positions because of an association with Professor Morgan.
When one examines the list of people appointed from the business sector in Newcastle, one can perhaps draw an inference, if no more, that the friends of the Vice-Chancellor in the Chamber of Commerce have been rewarded for their support of the university and their possible commercial gain from that relationship by membership of the Interim Council.
Professor Morgan denies the claim, saying he simply didn't have that power.
Well, if I believed that friends of mine were going to commend themselves to Dr Metherell for appointment, I would have had no problem at all in giving him a very long list. Dr Metherell chose these people, not me.
Sometime on Monday, a punter went into this Hamilton newsagent and made a $1.20 investment without registering a name or address. Filling in the standard 4-game entry, the mystery buyer, along with 1 million others, took a gamble for the dream of $3 million. Last night, that dream came true when the 7 balls fell into place and the holder of numbers 6, 27, 24, 29, 34, 10 and the supplementary 31 was set for life. Somebody around here is a millionaire 3 times over. They can now afford that new car, perhaps a house by the sea, or maybe even a trip around the world. The tragedy is, they don't know about it. Newsagents Anne and David Lunny, who sold the winning tickets, say they are keen to find the new millionaire.
We've had a few practical jokers come in with an instant lottery or two with a smile on their face, and they hand it to us and grin, and we sort of think, what's this? And it's just an instant lottery $2 payout. What we really want to see is the winner of the ticket come in and hand us that winning coupon.
Being an unregistered player, the winner must present the ticket to collect the money. Meanwhile, the $3 million stays with the Lotto office and in 2 years, if still not collected, is given to the Treasury for safekeeping. Last night's win is the 3rd Division 1 win for Newcastle in the last month, with a baker from Katara sharing $1 million and a young Katara Heights mum taking $600,000. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Francis Sutton from the Hunter Region Community Forum first devised his plan to save the Hunters beaches from pollution in 1970, but it's only now that widespread public interest has been aroused. He believes treated sewage effluent should be used for power station cooling purposes and for land revegetation.
In Sydney, for example, 1,000 million litres of water is lost into the ocean every day, which could be used, particularly in regard to Mr Hawke's wonderful proposal to prevent the degradation of our soils, the growing of plantations of hardwood and of pine for the domestic and for the overseas market. This would be one way of putting a brake on logging of our natural forests.
A study on this idea is now being carried out by the University of New South Wales. Mr Sutton's plan is to take treated sewage from the Hunter inland via the ELCOM proposed Mount Heaton hydroelectric power station west of Toronto to supply Bayswater, Liddell and possibly an additional power station with cooling water. This means Glenny's Creek Dam would not be required to replace water to the Hunter River, currently taken out for the power stations, so could then supply water to Newcastle, removing the need for the controversial Tilligeera Dam proposal. But the Hunter Water Board was quick to reply, with an assurance that the current system is safe and efficient.